Finally, we've got all the deets on potential leaks to piece together what Prototype in Poppy Playtime is really supposed to look like. Starting with official messages from the game devs hinting at Prototype's secret behind-the-scenes action. Though officially, we've only seen Prototype as a claw attached to an invisible body. We can start piecing together what this body and all its parts look like based on what the game devs have actually spilled. Turns out, in the early planning stages for the game, Prototype was one of the main locked characters we already knew about, based on other characters in this earlier game version of Poppy, which were meant to be found in the game along with him. This kicks off what we need to know here to assemble their Prototype. The character appearances in the earlier version of Poppy Playtime initially included Gumball the Cat, now known as Candy Cat, Huggy Wuggy, Poppy, renamed Robot Toy, Bye Bye Baby, and Prototype 1006. All of them were supposed to appear in the early version of Poppy Playtime, and what opened up to us so early is that the full appearance of Prototype is likely not to include any parts of Huggy Wuggy, as many people expected when we actually meet him in the game. The full appearance of Prototype had already been planned by the game creators, while Huggy Wuggy was supposed to be alive if these two characters were to coexist in the same early version of the game, making it much less likely for Huggy to magically become part of Prototype later in the game. The idea that Huggy isn't part of Prototype is further confirmed by the game developers themselves, who ultimately told us on the Poi Playtime Discord server that Prototype was meant to have its own truly spooky section in the home version. He wasn't supposed to pop up and add Huggy's corpse to his collection of parts because he was already programmed his own separate section of the game. And moreover, the theme of Huggy's presumed death seems much more of a mystery than people actually think. But as far as what we know about the appearance of Prototype, it turns out that this detail, that Huggy was not involved in merging parts, actually changes everything. What you see in Chapter 3 and were included in the downscaled model of what was said to be the representation of Prototype's real body. But we also entertain the idea that it may not be quite what we'll encounter in future games of the Poppy Playtime universe. The issues with this downscaled version boil down to the fact that Ollie, one of the main heroes, confirmed he indeed saw the full body of Prototype before giving us an intriguing glimpse into its real appearance compared to this smaller model. This sanctuary will scare you if you thought that was bad. Just wait till you see the real deal, implying some features of Prototype's real appearance stand out in a way that makes it different. Especially more frightening than the smaller Prototype model we managed to find a praying catnap. Returning to the idea that Huggy Wuggy probably won't be part of the real Prototype model, this again leads to the notion that this toy version shouldn't be the perfect representation of what we're actually supposed to see. But as for what we are supposed to see, new potential leaks provided by the game developers start to piece together everything else we need to know. So let's get back to how Prototype is really supposed to look after connecting the dots on how it shouldn't look. Turns out, the game developers began giving us key info about certain models they created, which are actually related to everything we already know about the Prototype. We were essentially looking for evidence of a major assembly of parts to match the description we were already given, and something recently emerged behind the scenes that finally fits. Just as you see one of the main modelers and designers for Poi Playtime Concepts released a post, illustrating some specific designs that were supposed to be important, some of the real designs we've actually seen in the game, including a rocket launcher and the phone we used to communicate with Ollie, but then we're shown another design, something a bit more interesting to say the least. While it appears as a certain customizable skin in another game, Project Poppy Playtime, we see a pop-up of a very specific Project Poppy Playtime game skin, which has a strange connection both to the small Prototype shrine and to the game itself. As for the real appearance of Prototypes, a strange mesh of toy parts depicting Candy Cat's head and Catnap's ear, and apparently, I wasn't the only one who noticed something odd about this design because other Poppy Playtime fans began to give us more insight into the importance we might pay attention to in this particular model, why I think this skin relates to Prototype, with a response highlighting the fact that it has a robotic arm of a very similar style, which appears as part of the already revealed prototype model. Why would any of the leading animators and designers specifically highlight this model among all others we've actually seen in Chapter 3? Why this particular one was chosen to stand out here? When you look more into the facts, everything starts to come together for us. Firstly, this model is related to the gameplay of Project Playtime, something that makes it more significant for the possibility of having some relation to Prototype. As we know from the past, some of the most important Easter eggs foreshadowing Poppy Playtime games are actually shown in Project Playtime, which he first finds during gameplay in Project, like the mysterious poster hinting at participation in the game, caring about the main location of Chapter 3. Even before Chapter 3 became known, the fact that Mob Entertainment now prefers to focus more on enhancements of Project Playtime gameplay as a whole might go hand in hand with them deciding to implement more secret knowledge fans will have to dig into to connect to the current Playtime as a whole. The story of Prototype's real appearance in Chapter 4, and while I don't think the model we see here is specifically meant for what we see highlighted when Prototype decides to fully reveal itself, I believe some aspects of this design are meant to surface a more frightening, almost cobbled together horror show of parts that goes beyond the simpler representation we've seen in the catnap lair. And we've seen even more evidence of the importance of this thing, based solely on the fact that it perfectly matches what some other Poppy Playtime game creators told us, as well as the fact that they confirmed the full character concept for Chapter 4 was just completed around the same time they were actually creating the design for their third chapter. Returning to the strange message, we saw the same projects that were apparently initially created during this earlier message, meaning they would also have been made at the time when the Chapter 4 projects were also completed. Could the prototype model related to what we see here be what they were actually talking about? And although it could very well have been a hint in that direction, given everything we've been told about the situation, we just need to wait and see what they've actually prepared for us. But beyond this mystery we've unraveled, it turns out we're also given new leaks that start to emerge, and they're all related to what was revealed about the upcoming teaser for the fourth chapter. But beyond this mystery we've unraveled, it turns out we're also given new leaks that start to emerge, and they're all related to what was revealed about the upcoming teaser for the fourth chapter. But in this case, there's more evidence of the trailer's release when it's most likely to actually appear here, along with these mysterious claims about what we were actually supposed to see in it.